This is Dave with Fry and Bacon Studios with part 2 of our Game Salad tutorial on using Game Center with Game Salad. Now what we're going to look at in this episode is how to use the Game Center Pro feature behaviors. This is only available for Pro users of Game Salad, and you just come over and hit the Pro tab and you'll see all the Game Center behaviors that you have access to in the Pro section. Now the first thing I want to talk about is how to save achievements. So let's just go ahead and look. I've got a table set up. And sometimes the issues that people have is that they set up achievements and a user will win the achievement while the game is happening. And a lot of people get stuck in, how do I record or send that achievement to Game Center? Well, what we've done in our game is that we've set up a table with all booleans, and elsewhere in the game are the conditions for which an achievement is earned. And so what we do is when the achievement is earned, we change the table value for the particular achievement to true, and then we save the table. This way you don't interrupt the game, and you don't have to worry about whether someone has earned the achievement and they haven't gotten to the area where you post to Game Center, because it can cause issues during the playing of the game if you try to do those things while your game is working. So what we do is we simply save them all to a table. That way those values can be checked later on when the person signs into Game Center in the area of your application or game where you have your Game Center achievements. So what we're going to do is let's just take a quick look at our area that we have for Pocket. And we have this little whole Game Center menu system that you end up to after the game. And in our game, you actually have a completion, fairly reasonable amount of time. When you play a game, it sends you out to the trophy room and you see everything, and then you can decide whether you just want to keep going back around to the menus and play the game again, or from here you can sign into Game Center. You can actually, on here we built our own little achievement areas, so people don't have to go on to Game Center and see what achievements they've won unless they want to. They can actually have the option of seeing them in the game, as well as their scores. So what we do is we wait until the player hits this screen, and then all the Game Center stuff is recorded and uploaded while this screen's there, and we give a little half a second delay before this main menu button becomes active to give the code a chance to cycle a few times and go through all the things that it needs to do to report to Game Center. So now you can also do this if you have, say, a platformer style game or some other kind of game that has levels. You can actually set this up so that your Game Center stuff reports during that time that you're going through the end of the level menu system, where it might say level completed and all those kinds of things. You can use that opportunity to go ahead and report all your Game Center information at that point in time, and just make sure you put enough of delay in there before it goes off to the next level. A code cycle takes like 0.02 of a second, which is 0.02. So if you give it a half a second, 0.3 of a second, you've got plenty of time for the code to scan 3 or 4 times to make sure it gets everything reported properly to Game Center. So let's just go ahead and look at the code. I've actually embedded it right inside the main image. So in here I have my achievements, and I have them all set up to trigger based on the booleans that I've saved previously that happens in game. So if this boolean is true now, it will basically use the Game Center update achievement to do the update at that time. If it hasn't been achieved, it won't update it. And as we saw, we have our ID that we put in there, and I'm just going to go ahead and change it as I modified it, as you remember, PE Pocket Edition. So we've updated that. Now I set a score of 100 points for getting this particular achievement, so my percentage needs to be 100%. This is not the value of the achievement. And the reason why they have it this way is because, as we saw, you could actually get a particular achievement multiple times. So if you set it for 100 points and you wanted the person to be able to get the achievement 10 times to max it out, then you would put the percentage in there at 10%, so that over 10 times they would get the full 100 and they would get all the points. And this works the same way for basically all my achievements. As you're going to see, I've got 10 of them, and they're all set up to report properly. This way they can do it when there's time to do it and they're not interfering with the game. Pretty easy. So basically, also, my Game Center posts scores for my leaderboard ID, which is the most wins on the hard mode. And so my leaderboard ID is in here. And I actually have to change that stuff later on, but that's all right. I won't do it for right now. I need to go back and look at my paperwork. So basically, I've just attached it to my attribute where I'm calculating the most wins. And the same with here. I'm calculating it to my integer attribute that tracks each time you win and adds 1 to it. And then it reports to that leaderboard. So that's basically how you do your leaderboards. Pretty simple stuff. Now, there are a few other behaviors that you can use if you want to set up scenes and actually have this stuff happen. If we wanted to, we could go ahead in and make them have them log in. So actually, I do that over here where the little Game Center icon is. You're going to see this is when they touch is pressed, they go ahead and they can log in to Game Center from there. And it'll bring up the Game Center app and all of that. Also, there are a few other behaviors that you can use. You can do a show achievements, which is going to bring up all the achievements through Game Center, and you have the reset achievements. So if you wanted to be able, the player to be able to reset everything and get the achievements again, or you wanted to set this up so that if you were doing save versions of your game, that people could go in, and if they made a new version of it to play again from start to finish, you could also reset all those Game Center achievements back to defaults. And so that's basically the different things that you can do with Game Center. It's basic, pretty easy, and you can also pick the different leaderboards that shows up in here over time, and you would just put the particular leaderboard ID that you wanted to show up in here. And so that's basically how you set everything up in Game Center, in GameSalad, to be able to report to all those leaderboards and all that information. The biggest thing is to make sure everything is the same, written, whether it's in lowercase, caps, and all that, and all your achievement IDs, you've got them right, and you've got your percentages right. And you'll be all set. So now in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the sandboxing environment. And the sandboxing environment for Game Center is really not as good as the environment for IAP. It can take some time for the sandboxing environment in GameSalad to actually post the scores on your leaderboards and your achievements and things like that. So that may take me a little bit to do, as I'll have to demonstrate them working, show you how to set up your sandbox and do all that. And then I'll have to wait for that stuff to post and get on there and then re-record it so we can go back and see it. So anyways, this is Dave with Fry and Bacon Studios and another GameSalad tutorial. I'll see you in the next video.